The overall projection, we believe over half the people in this city will ultimately be infected. Now, again,
over
thank
half.
God, over half. Thank God for 80%, that will be very little impact in truth. For about 80%, we see this consistently. It's like having, a cold or flu type dynamic, and you get through it in 7 to 10 days. And a lot of those people get right back to work, our first responders, our healthcare workers. But for 20% of the people infected, it's going to be tough. And for some of them, of course, it's going to be fatal. So when you look at these overall numbers, we got to be honest about it. Grows before it comes, before it comes down, we're going to go through a really sharp growth period. I think, George, we have to be ready for that. And I think it's going to spread in the country. This idea of Easter is unfortunately a false hope. It would be better for the president to be blunt with people that we've got a really tough battle ahead. Throw in the military, who are not yet being fully engaged, and they're ready, but the president has to give the order. Build those ventilators. Get the supplies all over this country, because people are going to need it in April and in May.
The United States, now with the most diagnosed cases in the world, more than 500,000 infected around the globe. In hard-hit New York City, the NYPD reporting its first death of one of its own, a 14-year veteran, custodial assistant Dennis Dixon. In Kansas, 74-year-old Dennis Wilson passed away after testing positive and being hospitalized. Doctors initially thought he had the flu and sent him home.
They couldn't do the test because he didn't have any fever. He was fully engulfed with pneumonia in that short a time, expecting it to be so bad.
This expands. President Trump says he'd like to see parts of the country open by Easter. But the nation's top infectious disease doctor calling that goal aspirational.
Give people some hope, but he's listening to us when we say we really got to reevaluate it in real time, and any decision we make has to be based on the data.
Overnight, the president telling Sean Hannity he believes some governors are overestimating the virus and the number of ventilators needed, just hours after backing out of a deal with GM and medical device company Ventec to produce those life-saving machines.
Governor Cuomo and others that say we want, 30,000 of them. 30,000. Think of this. You go to hospitals that have one in a hospital. And now all of a sudden everybody's asking for these vast numbers.
Chicago's mayor anticipating 40,000 hospitalizations, ordering the closure of the city's lakefront, adjacent parks, and Riverwalk until further notice, after witnessing large crowds gathering outside.
Dear God, stay home, save lives.
In Louisiana, a spike in cases following recent Mardi Gras celebrations, up 28% in a single day. More than 2,300 people there now testing positive, at least 83 dead, including a 17-year-old.
People become more cognizant that they've been exposed. They're more aware of what is going on. And now we're starting to see younger and younger people.
But New York remains the epicenter, where some hospitals are being pushed to the brink.
I think that I've never felt so physically and emotionally burdened in my life. I've never felt so deeply sad and distraught. And
George, look, here's the reality in New York City. People are answering the call, healthcare workers, first responders, but we have to be real honest about where this is going. I can tell you right now, we have enough supplies to get through this week and next week in our hospitals. That's all I can guarantee. And after that, unfortunately, we think this crisis is going to grow through April into May. That's the truth. And we need the president and everyone in Washington to understand it's just a blunt reality. We're looking at the numbers. We're looking at the human impact, and we can't ignore it. We can't minimize it. We need help now. When the president says the state of New York doesn't need 30,000 ventilators, with all due respect to him, he's not looking at the facts of this astronomical growth of this crisis. And a ventilator, George, means someone lives or dies. It's as simple as that. Someone lives or dies. If they get the ventilator in time, they can live and come through like that amazing woman in Washington State, 90 years old. That's beautiful. But if they don't have a ventilator, a lot of people are just not going to make it.
So you need 30,000. Where are you right now? What do you need from the federal government?
We've gotten in New York City about 2,500 in the last week or so. The state needs 30,000. The city needs 15,000. So we've gotten something, and I'm thankful for that. But it has to keep coming. The president has to make that contract happen with the companies that can create ventilators, not just for New York City and New York State, for the whole country. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And it's literally, we have to understand, without a ventilator, doctors can't save lives. This is the greatest country in the world. We should be producing all the ventilators possible over these next weeks because all parts of this country are going to need them.
This morning, hell on the front lines, talking about these nurses wearing plastic gowns, garbage bags, in order to protect themselves. So many shortages in so many hospitals here in New York.
George, the truth is we have, again, the supplies for this week and next. We got to make sure every hospital is getting them to their extraordinary, heroic medical personnel, the nurses, doctors, everyone in those hospitals, because the supplies are here. We got to make sure everyone gets them when they need them. But again, not too long from now, I may not be able to say that if we don't get constant help from Washington. There's a lot of fear, George. I don't blame any healthcare professional. They're going through hell. Look what they're having to deal with. And we got to make sure the supplies are there every single time when they need them.
Give us a bit more sense. You say this is going to go into May here in New York. The number of increased hospitalizations was about 3,000 yesterday. That was 4,000 the day before. Are we seeing, we know it's still going up, but are we seeing any kind of flattening at all?
George, there's some days we see numbers that make us a little hopeful, but I don't want to give people a false hope and then, they get hit by it with a ton of bricks and it turns out it's not real. The overall projection, we believe over half the people in this city will ultimately be infected.